In his last years, Albert Einstein said, "Everything great and truly inspiring is done by the individual who labors in freedom." Everything great and inspiring done by the individual who labors in freedom. I want to talk to you today about how we could work in freedom. First thing I want to share with you is that I was born and raised in Egypt. That's not that relevant to this talk, but these days it's really nice to say it out loud. Yeah. So I came to the United States 10 years ago to work for Microsoft. And as I was getting there, I was super excited. I expected I'd be working with the brightest people in the world, solving amazing problems that will solve everything. And when I got there, I was really disillusioned. I often found myself sitting in rooms with really smart, intelligent people who were bored and disengaged and making PowerPoint presentations. And I found myself sitting in those meetings sometimes thinking, nobody wants to be here, including the guy who called the meeting. You know what I mean? So I left Microsoft and went to the nonprofit world. I thought, there I'm going to find meaning and engagement. And really, I found amazing people still there, still in second gear. Something about our workspaces puts people in second gear. We feel disengaged and disempowered in most of our work. It turns out, actually, that 3 out of 4 people in the world feel disempowered and disengaged in their work. Think about that. 75% of us go to work and don't feel fully alive. Why? I don't think it's because we don't want to be alive in our work or because we're not smart enough. I think it's because the systems that we work in are completely outdated. You know, these top-down command and control pyramid structures where somebody tells somebody else what to do, tells somebody else what to do, those were invented hundreds of years ago. Since then, we've discovered electricity, we've gone to the moon, we've built the internet, we've done some cool things, right? But we haven't upgraded the agreement with which we're working together. We live in democracies, but we work in dictatorships. We live in democracies, and we work in dictatorships, yeah. So, why? That's silly, right? And that's what I thought to myself. So, I stepped outside of the work world and joined with about 40 other people, and we started to look at what would a new agreement of work look like? What would it look like to just think out loud? What would a new company look like that's not based on these pyramids? I have nothing against pyramids, by the way. The first place I looked, because I'm a software engineer, I looked to the open source software community. Now, the thing about open source software, you probably know it as the people who made Firefox and Wikipedia and things like that. It's an amazing community, not just because they're geeks, but because these engineers have figured out how to work together freely, without managers. They figured out how to have several thousand people write billions of lines of code to create billions of dollars worth of amazing software that runs 60% of the internet without a single person telling somebody else what to do. They figured out how to be fully alive in what they're passionate in and scale and actually produce value. So I thought to myself, why don't we take the same principles of the open source software world and apply it to the conventional workplace? And so with these 40 people, some of them millennials, we got together and we created the open enterprise model, and we built the software to support companies and organizations to work in these ways. And I want to share with you how this works, some of the principles of it. So the first principle of an open enterprise is there is no fixed structure. There are no leaders, prescribed leaders. There are no job titles. Everybody has the same job title, human being. And it's true. And leadership power, I'm not talking about a flat structure, by the way, because that doesn't scale very well. I'm talking about a hierarchy, but a much more intelligent, dynamic, functional hierarchy, where people move up and down depending on the situation. If you think about a team that you worked in that was highly functional, nobody was leading all the time. People stepped in when they felt inspired or felt they could lead, and stepped back and let somebody else lead at the right time. This is how we normally want to work, but that's not how our structures work. In the real world, a best example of that is a company, W.L. Gore. This company, they make Gore-Tex. They have 9,000 employees and only one job title, associate. If you work at Gore, you're an associate, and you own part of the company. No vice presidents, no managers, nothing like that. There are leaders, but if you're going to be a leader, that means that a group of associates has voted you in willingly. They can take that vote away immediately, which keeps you accountable and actually puts real leaders in place. They're doing pretty well. They're the #1 voted place in Fortune magazine to work in America, and they make $2.5 billion a year. It's an amazing company. The second principle of an open enterprise is transparency. In an open enterprise, everything is transparent. I mean salaries, financials, communications. Every meeting has an open door. If you show up to a meeting, then you belong in that meeting. And a lot of companies today are adopting this. Cutting-edge companies like Zappos and Hulu and Groupon, these companies have open book management. They've decided to make employee culture the most important thing, and they're kicking butt doing it. And they have this open book management where anybody has access to all the numbers anytime they want. And that, because human beings want to have information, we feel trusted, and we start to take ownership of our community and ownership of our work. And transparency is a really good step towards doing that. And the last principle I want to share with you about how an open enterprise works is that it's got a true meritocracy of ideas. What that means is every idea is judged based on the merit of the idea itself, not on who the idea came from. A really good example of this in action is this company WD-40. You know, they make those oils. I never use it. But it's a really great company. And a few years ago, they were in a hard place, a very hard financial spot. And the CEO, Gary Ridge, instead of just firing a bunch of people, sent out a memo to everybody saying, look, we're in a really tough spot. We're $100 million short this year. I'm not going to fire anybody, but I want you to send me all the ideas you have about how we can cut costs. And what happened next was amazing. Everybody in the company started sending all these ideas, big and small ideas. A ton of them got implemented, and WD-40 saved $280 million that year, and nobody got fired. And open enterprise goes a step further and doesn't just say anybody can suggest ideas. The ideas actually are voted on by anybody, and the good ideas bubble up to the top and get implemented. That's how open source software works. We should take this to our real world. I don't have all the answers about how these new structures of work are going to work. I don't think anybody does. But what I do want to convey to you is that this is already happening. These old structures are already crumbling around us, and we need to invent these new structures. The problems Simon talked about are real, and they're here. And if we're going to solve these problems, we have to invent intelligent ways of aggregating human effort so we can build and work together for a future where we all truly labor in freedom. Thank you.